knowledge in our chambers, please save the date. We're going to share an email very, very shortly with the specific dates. So yeah, so this year the climate is going to be in mid-May, and we are expecting to have a full house as well, and lots of training and lots of also activities outside of training, because there's more to life than just work, right? Okay, so stability. Let's go into the subject for today. So pharmaceutical stability, if most of you are already quite knowledgeable on this subject, but it's essentially an application that allows pharmaceutical companies to determine the shelf life or the life expectancy of a product or a molecule that they're working on. Okay, so pharmaceutical stability can be applied to pharmaceutical industry, of course, but also cosmetics, food and beverage, veterinary products, and so on. Okay, now the main um, let's say characteristic that chambers for this application must comply with is they have to be very, very stable, of course. They cannot go they cannot malfunction. Okay, so they have to be what we say, bomb proof. Okay, now for many, many years our lab has been working in this field, and we work with pretty much every major pharmaceutical company in the world. So we operate in Pfizer, Bayer, uh, Ovion, a very wide range of pharmaceutical companies throughout the world, and we want to expand, of course, on this portfolio of customers. Now, until now, our product offering consisted basically of these three products. So we start with our 600-liter chamber. So this is the one you see the left of your screen. Then we have the let's say its bigger sister, the 1200-liter chamber, and these are the 600 can be stability and photostability. The 600-liter sorry, the 1200-liter chamber is dealing with stability only. And then if customers need larger applications than 1200, we have the walk-in pH. Okay, so this was our product offering until now. The walk-in pH can be supplied in standard sizes, but we also had a very big possibility of customization. Okay, and we'll go into that in a minute. Now, it's very important to see that there were and there still are very important selling points for the pH. Okay, so the pH, the standard pH, as we're going to call it from now on, has an excellent performance in a wide range of temperatures. So you see the climatic chart that you can go from 20 degrees up to, sorry, from 15 degrees up to 45 degrees, and then a very big combination of temperature and humidity. It's got 80 millimeter panels, which provide very good thermal insulation, which also have implications in energy efficiency. Throughout the years, we've been developing an extensive accessories list, so we cover every possible demand. And you'll see, those of you who have a price list will see that we have a lot of options available in our price list. And also, some of you will know that we sell this chamber not only for stability applications, but also for testing applications. So, for example, I'm thinking of chambers for asphalt testing in Germany, for example. Okay, so basically these chambers are good for pharmaceutical stability, but also given that they have excellent performance, they can do other things as well. Okay. Now it's very important to say that this chamber has a radial evaporator. So this is what you see here in the middle. Okay. So if you go to a chamber like this and you look up, then you'll see a grid. Inside that grid, there's a circular evaporator. Now, the big advantage of this evaporator is that it sends air in all directions. This is a very important subject for today's conversation, okay? Why? Because since it sends air in every direction of the chamber, that means that we can change dimensions without loss of performance. Okay, so this chamber is perfect when you want to adapt to a room, to the size of a room. Okay, so this is why it's so easy to custom the dimensions of this chamber, the standard pH. Okay, and most of you that sell these chambers will know that most of the time we don't sell the standard dimensions. Okay, the reason being is they're very, very easy to adapt because of this circular evaporator. Okay, now, however, being a very good temperature and humidity chamber, this very good performance comes at a higher cost. Okay, installation is also more complex, and in some markets, this means that this is not a very competitive product. Okay, so we're very realistic here at Lab, so we know that we had to do something, and it's very important to say that most of you will already know, but we try to listen to our distributors and business partners around the world, and so they would consistently say that the Phytoclima pH is very, very good, but it would be even better if we had a more competitive offer if the customer just wants to do standard ICH points. So this was something that we started thinking about, which is if the customer is interested in doing ICH stability points, and those points are very well described in the norms and the guidelines, uh, then maybe sometimes the current pH is could be overkill. Okay, and so this is when we started to develop the new Phytoclima pH SC. Okay, and this is what we want to present to you all right now. Okay, so it's very important to keep in mind that this new chamber will coexist with the previous chamber because of the reasons that I've just mentioned. Okay, the previous chamber has great performance, can be adjusted to custom solutions. So right now in your price list, you have both possibilities. Okay. Now, this new chamber, we designed it to be as the idea was we have to have it as cost effective as possible, but still complying with standard ICH points. Okay, so if a pharmaceutical company comes to you and they have a very low budget and all their of course they have to comply with ICH points, but their main concern is budget, this is where the conversation should start. Okay, now the concept was, this was premise number one. Okay, number two, it should be easier to install, and it should allow for a local partner to be involved if they want. Okay, so in the previous chamber, uh, almost all the time our crews have had to go from Portugal to the customer to assemble the chambers. In this new chamber, it's easier to take that step and have yourselves, of course, with training, but have the distributors with business partners locally assembling the chamber. Okay, this will reduce the installation cost significantly, and that will reduce the price to the customer. Okay, and then thirdly, it was keep it simple. So let's design a chamber that doesn't need so many accessories, for example, that can be assembled easier, but that we know that will it will deal with standard ICH points. Okay. Okay, so right now, if you go, those of you who have a price list for this year, they will see three sizes available. So they all, in height, they're all exactly the same. They have roughly 2.1 meters in height, internal. Then we have a space uh, which is not protected by the false ceiling as it was before, but it's space that cannot be occupied. I'm talking about this space here. It cannot be occupied because we have to ensure that we have space for the air to flow on top of the chamber of the shelves. Okay. But essentially, we have the same 5 tiers of shelving that we have in the previous chamber, and then we have three sizes: the 12,000, the 17,000, and the 23,000. Okay. So the idea here is they have the same width, but we change the depth of the chamber in three sizes. Okay. And it's very important to know that the evaporator here is a bit different. We're going to see in a moment, but this is no longer a radial evaporator. What this means is that in order to customize the dimensions of the chamber, this chamber is going to be harder. Okay, so as we should stick to the standard sizes as much as possible. Okay, as you can see here, we have the evaporator next to the door. So the evaporator is going to be sitting here, and it's going to send the airflow to the end of the chamber, which means that we've changed the width of the chamber. We have to probably change the evaporator. Okay, so this is very important. Keep in mind, we can adapt the length of the chamber. Adapting the width of the chamber is going to be harder. So as much as possible, we should stick with the standard sizes. Okay. Now, comparisons between the standard pH and this new pH SC chamber. Okay. So let's go item by item. So the panels in the previous, by the way, here in the top, you have pictures of the standard pH. Here in the bottom, you have a picture of the new pH SC. Okay, so let's go one by one. So the panels in the previous one were 80 millimeter. Now they are 60 millimeter. Why? In the previous chamber, you had the option to go to 5 degrees or even go to minus 20 degrees. In this new chamber, if we're going to do standard ICH points, we don't need to go so low. So the 60 millimeters are a very good compromise. Okay. The evaporator, as I mentioned, we had a radial circular evaporator. Now we have a front air projection. So you see there was an evaporator here in the middle in the standard pH, and now we have an evaporator here right above the door. Okay. And this is where the air comes out of the evaporator. Okay. Now the electrical cabinet used to go down to the floor. Okay. Now the electrical cabinet is shorter, and we have the drain connection here. So in the back of the chamber, we don't have any more connections. So all the connections happen in the front of the chamber, which is a lot easier to assemble. Okay. Since we now don't have to go to so lower temperatures, we now have the maximum electrical power goes from 11 to 6 kilowatts. So we have a more competitive offer also from the electrical point of view. The shelving is exactly the same, aluminum with food grade PP. So it's exactly the same shelving. Uh, in the previous chamber, we had air recirculating ceiling. So we had a false ceiling on the chamber to distribute the air. In this chamber, we don't need it because since we've changed the evaporator type, then we can have the air flowing above the shelving. Okay. So we don't have that component anymore. The floor used to be stainless steel. Now it's marine plywood. Again, for the range of temperature and humidity that we're going to have, we don't need such a let's say strong floor. And it's also stainless steel tends to be expensive, and marine plywood is less so. So we gain competitiveness in this regard. Now the controller is exactly the same. So the idea is that the customer has the same user experience that they had on the previous chamber. So nothing changes. Same thing with the humidifier. So we already know that it works well in the standard pH. We want to keep things in the new pH SC as well. And as I mentioned, so the previous chamber is still in our price list because it has a very good design flexibility, and the new chamber is a lot more limited in that regard. Okay, so keep that in mind when sending the quotes over to our lab. Now, regarding performance, again, a picture of the standard one and a picture of the new one. Okay, so they have exactly the same temperature range, and within that temperature range, they have the exact same temperature uniformity, plus or minus 1 degree Celsius. Within the humidity range, the new chamber can actually go down to lower humidity level, so it dries more. Okay, but it has a slightly less accurate uniformity. Okay, so we go from plus or minus 2% to plus or minus 2.5%. Now it's very important to know, although there is a small change here, the norm allows for plus or minus 5%. Okay, so we're very, very far away from the limits of the norm. We're comfortable with this performance. Okay. Both units allow for a variable control in ventilation. Okay, so we can control the ventilation intensity from 50 to 100%. And then all of the chambers allow for the temperature and humidity ICH points. Okay. Now, regarding installation, as you can see here, we also designed the chamber to have a much simpler installation process. Installations are often one of the reasons why we lose competitiveness. So we would encourage you to look at this possibility of having you or a partner company doing the installation. Of course, we're fully available to help. Okay. But the idea here is that you receive the chamber with all the components pre-tested. The PLCs and the Climate Plus are already pre-calibrated, so all the PDIs are already filled in. All of the active components are in the same panel. So if you see here, since we don't have any more connections on the back, and the evaporator is up on the door, so it's really close to the electrical cabinet. So all the connections and all the copper piping, the electrical connections and so on, all happen in the same panel, the front panel and the top panel. Okay. So this makes it much easier because we don't have to have electrical wiring around the chamber, or we don't have to, define on a case by case where the copper is going to exit the chamber and so on. Okay. Now, as standard, the refrigeration is going to be on top of the chamber. Okay. So you're going to have to let us know if you need more copper. You can buy it from us, of course, or you can buy from a local partner that that can supply all these components off the shelf. Okay, but as standard, the chamber has two welding points. One just near the evaporator, the other one near the the condensing unit. Okay, so it's a much simpler process. Now, when we removed the false sealing, we also allowed for a faster technical assistance. Okay, so this is also easier from that point of view. Not only we are saving on the false sealing that we don't have again, sorry, but it also makes the technical assistance process easier and faster. Okay, and then you see here the drainage comes from the front of the panel here, and it exits the chamber here at floor level. Okay. Now we're getting to the end of our presentation. Two more slides to go. So accessories. So we've narrowed down the list of possible accessories. Okay. So we went to our most commonly ordered accessories. And so these chambers, you can add shelves, of course. You have Fitolog as an accessory, the integrated water tank. You can have one additional temperature and humidity probe if you want. Okay. And then you have the IQ, OQ, and PQ documentation. Strip curtains. Strip curtains are these curtains here that you see with PVC. Okay. So these curtains are here because if you need the chamber operating, especially in high temperatures, high humidity, when you open the door, you can lose condition. So this is an option that is available for the door opening not to have such a big impact. Door with observation window, the GSM module, Wi-Fi connection, the UPS backup to the HMI, of course. So if you have a power failure, the chamber will keep logging and the touch screen will keep operating, although the refrigeration is out. Condensates pump, and then as I mentioned, an additional for the condensing unit if it's further away from the chamber. Okay. Now, regarding price comparisons, this is very, very important. This is where, as the English say, push comes to shove, right? So this would be irrelevant if we didn't come to the end with a better price. Okay. So right now, if you go to the price list and you compare the 12, the 17, and the 23 with the standard chambers that you have in the price list, in the same price list, you'll see that the cost reduction was roughly 15%. Okay. So we are expecting, our expectation is that the reduction in price list plus the gain that we have in installation process will allow this for a much more competitive offer with the customer. Okay. So now, our main, in concluding, we tried to make an effort from our side. We think we've succeeded. This is a really very big, price reduction. So now we encourage you to, go to the field, present this possibility to customers, and and letting us know. Okay. So I'm going to close now. We still have a bit of time available for questions, and I'm now available for questions. Okay. Yep. Mohammed. Mohammed, can you please state your question?
So can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, I would like, first of all, to thank you for the presentation and this effort of producing this new chamber. I have a question for the lighting, the internal
Mhm.
lighting inside the chamber, how it could be in this case, because you don't have full ceiling.
Very good question. It's actually not in the pictures. I'm sharing my screen again. So if you see here, you see there's a light here. Okay,
Okay.
do you see it?
Yes.
So all the chambers, it's not in the pictures, but you can see a glow here. You can see a glow. So in the central aisle of the chamber, you have a light there.
Yeah. Okay. It's one central light for the whole
Yes,
chamber, not different.
yes.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
look at,
Perfect.
I don't know if you can see the screen Marco is sharing right now.
Yeah, Mark is
If
sharing the screen, and you will see that.
Wait, can you all see what Marco is showing?
Not now.
Just a
Yes.
minute.
Maybe the image will change to my picture. So I'm showing the
Are you
chamber.
seeing it right now?
Yes. Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Now we can see.
Yeah, so you have the light here on the ceiling, so it will be
Yeah.
fixed directly on the ceiling of the chamber.
So this light always on, or it's only lights on when you open the door, like in the old chambers?
It's
Is
exactly
it?
the same as the old chamber.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
I think there was another question, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly.
Morning. Thank you for the presentation. That was great. We just wanted to check on the marine plywood floor, and just understand what the reasoning was behind changing that, other than the price, and whether potentially, because I think a lot of customers would prefer to have that stainless steel anyway. Maybe we could put a sheet of stainless steel over the top of the plywood floor. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Is it truly plywood or is it coated?
It's coated.
Coated with?
I think epoxy, but I'm not sure. I can check. Either epoxy or a vinyl. I have to check. But Sam, going to your question, so the possibility of having a stainless steel floor is always available.
Yeah.
Okay. So the main reason here was make sure that we have the same performance in ICH points, okay, while reducing cost as much as we can. Okay. So if you go to a customer and they're happy with the dimensions and the performance and so on, but they want a stainless steel floor, I don't see a problem with that. Okay. Having said this, and going to Steve's question, we will check what the coating on the marine plywood is and share that detail. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
And oh, I was just going to ask one more question, if that's all right.
Yeah. Sure.
I've seen that you have an accessory for external tank.
Yes.
So this tank is option if there is no direct DI water, pressurized water, the customer can fill up this tank manually.
Yes. That is exactly it, Mufle.
Okay.
I think Sam still had a question.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. It was regarding airflow. I saw that you had the same airflow performance as the other chambers. Just wanted to check on a couple of things. I haven't noticed in the new brochure any sort of reference to how airflow can affect performance. And I was wondering whether potentially are there going to be any references to that in the new brochures for these chambers,
Sure.
or in the manuals.
Yeah, very good question, Sam. So, as with any climatic chamber, for any application, airflow has a very big impact on performance. Okay, this chamber here is not an exception to that rule. So, you have the same variable ventilation control. Okay, and in the previous chamber, we had the false ceiling distributing the air around the chamber and on the back of the shelves. Okay, now, if you look at this chamber, we don't have the false ceiling anymore, which means that you can never put boxes all the way up to the roof of the chamber. We always have to leave space around the shelving for air to flow. This is very important. This is why in the, if let's go back to the presentation, just a minute. So if you go to the presentation here, you'll see that in the brochure of these chambers, you're going to have this gray area here that we cannot occupy. Okay, so you can put boxes up until this line, but from this line upwards, you cannot have boxes. Otherwise, the air is not going to flow. Okay, and then the same thing is true when in the shelves. So in the shelves, you cannot put boxes against the wall. You need space always around in any chamber. In the previous chamber, it was like that as well. So in any chamber, you need space between the shelves and the walls so that air can flow around the samples and and uniform and have a uniform air distribution. Okay. I don't know if this was to your point, Sam.
Kind of. I was just looking at the brochure while you were speaking then. My point was more to the fact that when you change the airflow speeds, it usually has an impact on performance. We were just
And we
wondering.
should put that note.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
checking then. I couldn't see it.
Makes a lot of sense. Of
maybe-
course, yes. We will add Marco. We have to add that to the brochure. Okay. Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, what well for the rest of the team, what Sam is saying, and of course it's completely accurate and again true for any chamber, is if you decrease ventilation, usually that also decreases uniformity inside the chamber. Okay, so the rule of thumb is the higher the ventilation, the higher the uniformity. So since we have variable control of ventilation, of course, the set point of ventilation may affect performance, and that is a note that we have in the previous catalog, which we don't have in the new one, so we're going to add it. Okay, I think we have also a question from Mohammed.
Yes, I have also a couple of questions. You mentioned that it's better to stick with these standard sizes for this new chamber, but it seems you can do customization for even for this type of chamber, right?
Yep.
My question is, what's the effect in percentage on the prices if you do customization for such models?
Well, Mohammed,
Yeah.
I had a university teacher that told me, whenever you don't know the answer, just say it depends.
Yeah.
And so here is almost the same thing. So let me explain.
Yeah.
So these three volumes, so whenever we are building a chamber, that chamber has several components. One is the materials, right? The other one is production. The other one is engineering. So these three products don't have an engineering cost anymore because that cost is done. They're developed, so we don't have the need for engineering hours. Okay. If we need customization, we have to look at what the customization is and how many hours we think we have to basically do. We have to do the project, right?
Yeah.
So I would say we can do customizations in these chambers. The customizations here, especially when it comes to width of the chamber, are a bit more tricky. So we have to look into that. But the
Yes.
customization is always going to be a bit more expensive than the standard sizes.
Yeah.
And then how much we have to see depending on the customization. Okay, for example, if it's just putting 20 centimeters in width or height or length or whatever, that's a very simple, let's say, customization. Okay. But for example, if you have a pillar in the middle of the chamber, that is already a very big impact. Okay. So it really depends. It really depends. Okay. Our encouragement here is we try to minimize the cost of this solution. And the way
Yeah.
we minimize is by standardization. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if possible, we should stick to these.
Yeah, I understand. But my concern is I am comparing always with the old chambers. I know even for old chambers, if I could say old chambers, you
Mhm.
have different prices also
True.
between standard sizes and the customized sizes
Yeah.
because you have
Exactly.
to do more testing. But
Exactly.
I mean, even in the worst case, does this customization could reach to the same prices for the old chambers if you do the customization, or it should, in the worst case, it will be less than the old chambers, even for the customized sizes. You know,
Yeah.
this is
So
this is
yeah.
one point.
So Mohammed, if you're going to ask us for a customized chamber, likely we're going to use the previous chamber. Okay. So
Mhm,
we have to look at so customization can be a lot of things. So we have to look at what is being asked, and
mhm,
if it's a small change to what we have right now, maybe we can do it with a very small adjustment on price. If it's a big
mhm,
customization, then probably we're going to go to the standard pH for the reasons that I mentioned before.
mhm,
Since we have the circular evaporator, we're much more, you know, uh, we know that we can ensure the uniformity and the quality of the product with the circular when we change dimensions. And in this case, we have to test. Okay.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I cannot tell you right away how much it's going to cost because it depends on the type of uh, of customization.
Yeah. Okay. One last question.
Yep.
As I as I know, as a part of uh, qualification, the IQ and OQ, there's some tests related to open door.
Yep.
So my question, is it different from this chamber and comparing to the old chamber in terms of the time needed for returning back to stability after you open the door, because the heat distribution and also the humidity distribution totally different. So is
Yep.
it the same performance we get, or it could be the old one better in this point?
Well, we tested for that part. I don't have the data here with me right now, but we tested for the open door, and I think we improved. Okay.
Great.
Now, the
Yeah.
the most important aspect to consider is if the open door uh, test is relevant in your area, because sometimes it is not. Okay. Now it
Mhm,
depends on the way that the customer is going to use the chamber. The relevant. So in the PQ and OQ, you always have to do that test. Okay.
yeah.
But the relevance of that test depends on how the customer is going to use the
Mm,
chamber. Okay. That is why we added the strip curtains. Okay. So if the open door test is relevant for the way that they're going to use the chamber, the strip curtains are a very important accessory. Okay,
yeah.
because these allow you to open the door and you have minimal loss of temperature and humidity from the inside and outside. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's also very important to note that the open door test is very relevant, but is more critical the smaller the chamber is. What do I mean by this? If you
Mm,
open the door on a 5 cubic meter chamber, the impact of that door opening is much bigger than if you open the door in a 100,000 liter chamber. Why? Because the when you open the door, the mass of air that comes out is the
Mhm.
mass of air that is near to the door. If the chamber is small, it's the whole chamber. If the chamber is very big, you almost don't see, you see a very little impact. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
you
have to
are
see
right.
the open door test is very relevant, of course, but we have to look at the size of the chamber, the condition of the chamber. So, for example, if the room is at 25 degrees and the chamber is at 25 degrees, you almost see no impact. But if the
Yes.
chamber is at 40 degrees and the room is at 15 degrees, then when you open the chamber, you're going to see a very big impact. Okay,
Yeah.
so open door is very important, but please consider the PVC strip curtains and also the size of the chamber. Okay,
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
welcome. More questions?
João, there was a
Yeah.
question from Wilfred on the entry ports.
Okay, Wilfred, hi. So the chamber as standard has one entry port. So if you're looking at here in the
Yeah,
in the picture,
I wrote it in the chat, but maybe let me rephrase it.
Ah.
When we had the sheet with the accessories available, I noticed that additional entry ports were not listed. Is it still possible also for customers to add additional entry ports in this chamber, or should we
Yes.
stick to the okay?
Yes. That's we can. By the way, that's an important point. We will add it also to the sheet.
Okay, perfect.
But as standard, the chamber already has an entry port. Okay.
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, by the way, well, just going back a bit, this is a first presentation of a new product. Okay, so for many of you, you're not familiar with it, of course, that's normal. So this is a first presentation of this product. Let's say it's the start of a conversation. If you have any technical questions, if you need more detail, if you need quotes, please refer to your sales manager. Okay, we will be happy to provide more training, more presentations on this subject. And we, as you know, we try to always be available for your questions. And again, two important messages. The climate this year is going to be mid-May. So if you're interested in knowing more, please schedule that visit to our lab in that period. We're going to have other presentations of new products during the year. So we're going to have other presentations like this. And finally, on behalf of all Lab team and all the organization, thank you very much for attending. It's really big pleasure to have all of you and so many people involved and interested in a new product. And we wish you really good business. And yeah, hope to hear from all of you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you, João.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Cheers. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
See you.